Hi and welcome to this video. Now today we're going to do a job that's on the description. Now forgive me if it's a little bit jumpy. It is going to take me a few days to do this job. I'm not going to be able to do it in one night. Basically I want to replace the front struts because I think they're gone from it being lowered quite low, and because I'm not 20 anymore, I've not gone back to standard suspension because these cars are quite high. I like to go in between, so I've bought some 30mm lowering springs. So I'll just go over now and show you the parts that I've got. So over here we have some 30mm post. Here we have some new front shocks, and we have what a lot of people tend to forget when they're doing suspension work. If I can open them. Which one's open? There we go. A new bearing for the top mount, because it will be the original that's on there. That's 35 years old, and the same applies to the top mounts. And again, these are two things I say a lot of people tend to forget when they're doing suspension work, because most people just want to get the shocks, springs changed over, and they forget about the little bits like that, which, considering this car is, I say, a 35-year-old car, they probably are well need for doing. Now, I'm not saying this is a guide, this is something or a job that I'm doing. Again, like most of my videos, I am bringing you guys along so you can watch. So hopefully with me doing all this, it's something for you to watch, entertaining if you like. Or if you are following this because you need to do yours, then I hope that it does help and gives you an idea. Now, obviously we've got the front and rears to do with the springs. I'm hoping the rears are going to be okay because there's not much weight on the back. So when I do those, we'll see when I take the shocks off. Now, not a problem that I've got with the rear is that when you change things on the rear, obviously it's best to jack up all cars by the rear subframe. Now, normally, like most newer cars, you would jack the cars up with the sills. Because this is a 35-year-old car, I don't particularly like using the sills, but even though they are decent, I'm going to see if I can find another way to jack the car up without using the subframe, because obviously that needs to drop so I can get all the parts out. But without getting ahead of myself, I'm going to do one of the fronts first. I want to see if I can strip the front leg, dodge everything, on this side, and once it's off I can hopefully re-underseal on these arch, and also on the other side as well. I think there's a little bit of rust that I want to treat. Now, a good thing to start off with before we take the wheels off and things like that, especially with the front suspension, is you want to undo this bolt first. There's no point undoing that bottom bolt first, because once you've undone that, then this nut on top is quite stiff. It took me a while to undo this one, which I've done already. I've been letting it soak in WD-40. But yeah, a good thing to do is to not completely take it off, but just loosen this, so when you do the other nut, you're not fighting against each other to take the strut out. So now, as I need to jack the front end up and I can start taking the wheel off. Okay, so the wheel's now off. As you can see, brand new disc. I've done like 3 miles on since it was on. New caliper and new brake lines. And you can see that the rust has started to the rust has started to sneak back through. So as I say, that's, hold the phone still, that's one of the jobs which I need to try and sort out, because I say the brake fluid is very good for getting underseal off if you need to ever get it off. Now, apart from that, I say no leaks from all this that I did, so that's good. Before anyone thinks, this is not a Coney, I think that's what you call them, shock. It is a standard shock which has been painted, I guess made to look like one. So next thing to do is obviously take this off. Now, to do that, obviously we don't have a anti-roll bar on this because it's predating those, so that just needs to push out, and once that's off, then we undo that bolt there, which can be a pig. So again, when you're defaulting the top nut up there, if you can get some on that, great, because we don't want those to snap. If that snaps, then you're stuck. So it's a good idea to try and work that out, and do it a bit at a time. Don't force anything. So that's what I'm going to do now, is I need to undo that nut, take this off, and then you can, well, it's going to need a hammer that bit there. It is going to chip your underseal or paintwork, if you can see, like that. If you've got a rubber mallet, even better. Okay, so as you saw, the strut's now off. I say this is not a Koni shock, it's definitely been painted. So it'll be interesting to see when this springs off what the shock is like. It's probably completely knackered because it feels it. But to do that, there is that top nut, which I'm going to look at in a bit. Now this is the top mount that everyone forgets. As you can see, inside there is quite worn. I will get the other one at some point just to show you side by side. So as you can see, up there is daylight, so all that's going to get re-undersealed, and now I've got enough room to work on getting behind all this, which makes things a bit easier. Now as you saw, it is a bit tricky to get this thing off. The nut was fine, to be fair, but there was quite a bit of rust in there. I had to use a bit of my concoction that I've made to get that out. So I just went out of D40. The nut that you saw is just here. I will clean that up, it's not bad. You can just see some rust in the grooves. Once that's wire brushed, it should be okay. But yeah, this was quite a pain to get out. So don't forget, you can probably see as well, there's a nice big chunky tyre under the car in case it drops. I've got the axle stand and trolley jack as well, because I say when you hit it, the car will move. So now I'm going to go off camera because I don't think you'd be interested in seeing too much. I have just seen, however, which you didn't see before, another bit of rust there peeking through, so I will sort that out. But what I'm going to do, it's a bit boring for you guys to watch, but I'm just going to basically sand this down back to metal. I'm going to put some crust on it just so it stops the rust, hopefully. There's another little bit there which needs addressing too as well. Crust it, let that soak in overnight, and then I can spray some zinc primer on it and basically underseal, well, just go over where it's caught there, you can see, over this bit, over there where you can see on the camera, a bit too dark, a bit of rust there creeping back through, and just basically all these tidy bits. Come here, Mr. Light. There you go. I have, as you can see, sanded where I need to sand. And put some crust on, so you can see that's doing its job. It's going all purple. So I'm going to leave that overnight, and that'll do its thing, make sure it's killed all the rust it can do, and then tomorrow that'll be all dry and I can underseal it. But before I leave it there tonight, because I was going to leave it at that point, I'm really intrigued to see how bad this shock is. This one here. So as you can see, when that's in its strut thing, that sits on there. So I've just taken that off. But yeah, to get this off, you need a swan neck spanner to get to the nut in there, and an Allen key on that on top. Now I have a set of spring clamps. Don't forget, you will need those, or a proper machine to do these. Do these at your own peril. If you don't feel comfortable doing these, of course take them to a garage or somewhere that can do them for you, because there's a lot of tension in these. The rear ones, not so bad, you can probably push those in by hand and do the top. These, as I say, these do have a lot of tension in them, so I'm not going to film it because, as I say, I want to crack on and finish with tonight. But I'm going to see if I can take this off, and then I can see how bad this shocker is. So if you are using these, here's a quick tip. So basically you want one on either side with the nuts on the top on either side. Now you need two. Best way to do it, I found, is two sockets. They don't have to be the same size as the nuts, as long as they turn. It doesn't need a lot of force. Now the reason you've got two is potentially it might get trapped against the spring, and if you're using one, it's a bit of a pain to try and get it on and off. So if you've got two, they can stay on there, and The idea then is that you can use an extension bar like that and still get to the hole on the top, and obviously this gives you clearance to turn as well. So just a little bit of a tip there if you are doing it this way. So I did try and record me taking the spring off, but it turns out that I can't press the record button, so yeah, we've missed that bit, unfortunately. But just to summarise where we are at the moment, the spring's off. I do need to release the clamps, so I'm going to do that in a second. That shocker, by the way, I don't know if I can do it with one hand. It's an old oil shocker, but it's had it, I can't do it with one hand. But it is really weak. So that is going in the recycle pile to one side. So also we have the bump stop, which is there, which I'm going to use for the new shocker, and the cover, which is there, which is in good nick, which is still a forward one. So that's done really well for 35 odd years old. And we have the top mount, top cover thingy, I forget its proper name. Underneath that we have the bearing, which I've got a new one of, and I did have a look at that. I don't know if you can pick it up on the mic, but it's very rough. I say it is original, so it's a good idea to replace that. And I'll go through this and the top mount in a second, or when I show you the new ones, which is why it's a good, why it's a good idea to replace these. And then you've got the metal top as well, which needs to go on the new one. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do for tonight. So yeah, that is well worn, and this is the offside one as well. So I do expect the inner side, because I normally say, the inner side one to be a little bit worse, because obviously that's where it picks up all the bumps. So for now, I'm just going to release these and then I'm going to call it a night. So this is another night for me. I reviewed some of the footage that I've already recorded on my phone, and basically one whole section which I was waffling for, to be fair, about 10 minutes, too long anyway. The sound quality, I don't know what's happened to the microphone, so I'm just going to basically quickly go over it again, hopefully a shortened version, just because it's quite an interesting thing to know. So you may have saw that when I showed you the parts at the beginning, the struts that I've gone for are oil struts. Now I basically made a little mistake, if you like, if you want to call it that. I've got a friend that works in the automotive parts place. I gave him the reg and he sent me out what originally came with the car. So in a sense it's a good thing because it's what came on the car. In another sense, I know I'm going to get a lot of people say, why did I not go for gas struts? Now if you are changing the struts, yes, the gas struts seem a better choice to go for if you are changing the parts anyway. They're a newer part, they're more better, more refined. So if you are wanting to go down that line, it's probably the sensible choice. But oil struts keep the originality of the car. Just to sum up, if you're not aware, oil struts, basically, I'll start with gas struts. They are basically struts that are filled with gas, and the rod of the strut, basically the gas keeps a constant pressure on the bar. So if you push the bar down, or let's say you go over a bump, the shocker helps the suspension to push back up. Now with the oil struts, basically it's a shocker that's full of oil. Now this doesn't force the car, if you like, the rod back up. This just dampens the blow. So let's say you go over a bump, it will basically dampen the force it has on the impact. Now the oil struts will give a more softer ride. So if anyone's got a standard Mk3, let's say, it's the possible reason why the car is a bit wallowy, because the gas struts will keep it more firm. So I do believe that the XR2i and RS Turbo came with gas struts, just because I say when you've got a faster car, and all that force when you put your foot down, making the car tilt back and forth and so on, it keeps the car more, gives it more rigid, keeps it more rigid rather, keeps it more stable. So like I say, if you are upgrading your shocks, gas ones may be a better choice to go. It would help the ride be a bit more firm and up to date, but like I say, if you are wanting to keep originality, then you can always go with the oil. Because I'm lowering this car anyway, say by 30mm, it doesn't really matter too much because the springs will do most of the work anyway. and the shocks will just obviously cushion the any impacts, potholes, that kind of thing on the road. As long as you're not driving down and the car's doing that, then yeah, that's what it was doing before, then yeah, you should be okay. Like I say, it's up to you with what you want to go for. I just thought I'd add that note just in case you are doing this job and it's something that you want to consider. So with that note, hopefully this is recorded better this time. Let's move on to the next thing. So as you can see, I've just basically gone over the bits which I sprayed, which I caught with the brake fluid. So basically I've crusted it, zinc primered it, and I've just gone over it with new underseal. Now we're never going to stop rust, that's completely impossible, but hopefully this should prolong it, and that's what we aim to do. Try and stop it for as long as possible. Okay, so the underseal that I put on there the other day is completely dry, and so I can touch it with my hands and it doesn't come off, so that's all good. Means it's not going to stick to the back of the arch liner, which is just there. I've gave it a bit of a wash. As you can see, it's not perfect, there's still bits of probably oil and grease on there, but there's no mud on there. It's a lot better than what it was before. The water that came off was black. I might at some point in the future jack the car up and give it a wash, which I can do in situ at a later date, but the back side on this side is all nice and clean. There was very little mud and rust behind there anyway, because it has been undersealed before, but if you've not removed your if you've not removed your arch liner on either side, it's definitely worth doing. Just to check all the bits of rust, and just make sure there's nothing nasty hiding behind these liners. Okay, so I have a spring, I have a shock, and I have the bearing and top mount. Now let's get this unpacked and see if we can get it together. Okay, so now you can see the shocker. Hopefully it's the right one that fits. When you're buying these, also a thing to be aware of, if you have a Mark 3, then it's a bit different to a Mark 3.5. So to start off with, it doesn't have the lugs for the drop links, because this one doesn't have them, and also Mark 3.5 struts are a little bit thicker. So if you try and put Mark 3.5 struts into a Mark 3, they're not going to fit. So let's make a start. One thing I will add as well, when you're buying oil shocks, you do have to prime these. So if you buy them, get them out of the box and think, that there's don't feel as much resistance as what they should be, it's because you need to prime them. Now it does say on the website for KYB, I have to check then, to prime these you have to compress them and pull them out 5 or 6 times. I've already done it a few times off camera, so I'm just going to do it again just to make sure. But basically when these are transported, they're laid on their side as per they are in the box. Now obviously when they're laid on the side, they're going to get air trapped in here. Now obviously that doesn't really happen with gas, because it's obviously a contained pressurized area, but apparently it does with these. So you have to put them upright like that and extend them, compress them a few times, and then you should get more resistance on the top. So going back to what I said, like I say, these don't push themselves out because these are oil. As you can see, I can just slowly push it down like that, but as long as these have resistance, you can't pull it up. Try again. It's taking a lot to pull it and push it down, so as long as there's resistance in there, you can't just do that with it quite easily. Then this is how they should be. I say with the gas ones, they will come with a strap, and as soon as you let go, they'll go pew and fire up. So right, let's just prime these, make sure these are nice and sorted. First thing not forgetting is the bump stop. That just pops on like that. Over the top, like so. And then you can put the spring through. Just under the, I think it's called top hat, this bit here, you have this section. Under there is this top bearing, which goes in there like that. Now this is the old one. Now like I say, a lot of people don't particularly renew these, they just swap the springs over and crack on. Bearing in mind, I say, this doesn't have any power steering. Renewing this should make it a little bit lighter as well, the steering. because as that's fixed on the turret, this is what makes the strut turn with the steering, so it all moves. So it's always a good idea to renew this, which I've got in here. So that's the new top mount, which I'll go over in a second, and that there is a new bearing. So like I say, I think it was something like £10 for these two, so really cheap, always worth doing. So what I'm going to do, like I say, is put all this back together, and then I'll bring you back once it's done. Okay, so we have one shocker complete with spring in place, the cover on, bump stop, and a new bearing, and this nut's now all torqued up. Now hopefully now I can get this all in place back in here. Now I'll just give that a bit of a sand because there was all rust and a bit of rubbish in there, so that's had a good sand out, so hopefully that should sit in there. The top mount, as you can see, is up there. So that just literally just fits in on that lip. It just goes under like that. Okay, so that's the strut back on. It is a lot easier if you take the caliper off, on the steering track would end as well, but I kind of left it on. It is doable, but it is easy if you take it off, so it's up to you on that one. One thing I've just noticed and realised, because I thought I got the wrong strut, is that on these new ones, for the brake hose, don't forget that that hole there, you need to use the mount off the old shocker, because it doesn't come with those. So I need to take that one off there and put it on the new one. That took ages and ages, but that is now finally on. It's not the right bolt, as you can see. It's just one I found in the garage, but I can change that at a later date when I can find one that's more suitable. I can just jack the car up and get to it from underneath. But for now, I say roll back, that's back where it should be. So now we can get the tyre back on. So as you can see, or as you saw from that video, it's not fully settled and it's hard to get an angle in the garage, but you can see there's more of a gap now, which I think, I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so the front, as you saw just a minute ago for you guys, is now done. So what I'm going to do now is I've decided to move on to the back, just because hopefully I can get both done quite quick at the same time. So I'll just quickly go over and show you what I plan to do next. Okay, so I think for this one, because obviously I made the front one quite detailed, I'm just going to quickly go over what I'm going to do, and then I'll probably just time lapse it. I'll tell you why in a second. So first of all, the other day I put some D40 on those two nuts, the ones either side, that one and that one, that side as well. So what we need to do is, with the car sat on the floor, I'm going to undo these two nuts. I'm going to do both at the same time, and then jack it up in the middle, because I know it's not wise to try and use the seals too much on this car. So if I can try and get under, I'm going to jack the seal up, and the reason I'm going to do that is, you can see just there's the nut for the bottom of the shocker. So there's one there and there's one on the other side. So I'm going to jack it up, in the middle, loosen that off, and then when both are loose, then I can let this car back down to the floor. So I say it's not really, normally when you jack the car up when you're doing something, when you're working on it, with a car this age, it's good to jack it up on the rear subframe. But obviously, because we need to drop the subframe, we need it to swing low so we can get the shocker out, we need to use the seals or something else. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to time lapse it, because A, obviously as quick as I can make this the better, and B, I don't think there's any other way of jacking this up. I could use the, I forget the name, but the rails underneath, but like I say, I know this car's okay, I know it's not rotten inside. I still don't like using them, but I think it's going to be the quickest way. So what I'm going to do is, like I say, time lapse me doing this job rather than me talking you through it like I did on the first one, and see how far we get. So as you saw, that was a bit of a struggle, but in the end I had to use a scissor jack because I needed to support the beam at the bottom, and also I needed to lift it up a little bit more because I didn't lift it up high enough. So if you do this job the next time, or when I do the other side, you need to lift it up a lot higher than what I did. Now that this shock's off, we can have a good look at this. Okay, so first thing I can see is that this boot cover is absolutely knackered. So unless I can find a spare, this job is going to be yet again put on hold, because I don't want to reuse that one. But also depends what the shocker is like. Now if I remember with these, you can press them down and undo them. You don't need a spring compressor on these, so all you have to do is undo this top nut, press down while you're doing it, and it should come off. So as you can see, duck down, you can see that I've got a new, well, it's not new, it's one from a spare that I found, a new cover. And it's not perfect, it's got a little nick there, but it's in one piece and it should stop water and everything, get into this rod. If you do need to change one of these, by the way, because it's a little bit different to a Mark 6, that just has a simple nut and it comes off. These have this top on, this bit here. And the best way to get this off is with a pair of mole grips on the rod, but try and sit them on a blanket. A blanket? Try and sit them on a rag. Get my words out. Otherwise you're going to end up marking the rod, which you don't want to do. But because at the top as well, you're not going near the seal at the bottom, just here. So it's not detrimental if you do leave a mark or two, but we try not to, do the best you can not to mark it. So pair of mole grips on there with a rag round, and you can get a big spanner. Got one here, this one's a 30, round the top, and this will crack off, and then once it comes off, this will slide off. I say I didn't film it because I wasn't entirely sure to get this off, but I had a spare one which I worked out to do it, and then I tried it to this. Now this shocker isn't so bad. I say it's not nowhere near as bad as what the front ones were when they came off, so I'm going to reuse this one. As I say, it is an oil one, so it doesn't push its way back out, but there's definitely resistance behind it when I try and push it in. So because there's not a lot of weight on the rear end also, and like I say, I'm not going to be rallying around corners, the shocker is going to be absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do now is get the new 30mm on and put this one on. And like I say, you don't need a spring compressor, just make sure it sits in that recess there, and then you can press down on top with that bit, and you can get that nut back through. Simple. Okay, so one down and the second side to go. Now obviously I'm not going to film it because it's the same thing, so I'll bring you back when hopefully I can drop it back down and see what it's like. Finally, that is the other side done. I've just finished torquing up the bottom rear bolts. I'm absolutely knackered now. I know I've still got another one to go, but again, I don't think I'm going to film that. I'm just going to do it hopefully as and when I get a chance. Like I say, I've already done the front one, so it's just exactly the same. I will bring you back, however, if I'm doing a little bit of rust or something like that, just to have a look around. So now the bit I've been waiting for, I can finally lower the back end and see what it's like. So as you saw, that's now dropped to the ground. I know it still needs to set a little bit, as does the front, but yeah, I'm liking that so far. Just try giving it a little bounce, and yeah, it feels a lot better. Really do like that. It's not as high, as what standard is, but it's definitely not as low as what it was before. So yeah, now for you guys onto the front, and for me, I'm just going to get a shower and get cleaned up. I'll bring you back as and when I have something new. So it's been quite a few weeks since, for me anyway, the last clip that you saw. Now I've been editing the beginning of this video over this time, and before I get a few comments, I just want to add that I know it's not always the best idea to jack up from the middle of the rear beam, because you've always got that potential risk of bowing the beam with it being an old car as such. I know one of the alternatives is the beams that go down the centre of the car, but I don't have a jack, or didn't have a jack big enough. So like I say, you can do it the way I did it by doing that, but it's entirely your risk if you do it that way, because it can throw alignment and all sorts of things off if your beam does decide to bow even the smallest little bit. So moving on. Right, so since I left you, I say I've done that front corner. I'll put in a few pictures now of how I got on. There wasn't really anything different to the first bit, the video that you saw. I treated the rust that was under there. There wasn't a lot at all. Undersealed it, re-undersealed a bit where the brake fluid went. So yeah, I just put all the springs back on. Same process, exactly same as what you saw on the the driver's side front. So there was not really much to report on that. The only thing I would say is that the last owner, I'm not sure if they used an impact gun or what they did to the thread on the top mount. Again, I'll put a few photos in, but the thread was cross-threaded and it was that tight, the nut, that when I managed to undo it, I had to borrow a 1/2 inch impact gun off a friend. So it was that tight that the top metal, I don't know the actual name, but the top mount plate, if you like, it actually made the hole bigger. It was that tight, it sheared it in two. So I had to buy a new one of those, which I got from a nice guy off one of the Ford groups. So if you're watching, you know who you are, so thank you for that again. So yeah, everything went back together, and yeah, it went together pretty quick. So what I'll do now is I'll just insert a few clips of the car outside of the garage, because it just started to rain. It's the only chance I've had to do it, and you can see how it's not the best idea because the drive's not flat, but you can see how the car sits more or less now. Okay, so on the contrary of recording the last section of the video, I have now been out in the car and I can report it is so much better than it was before. The suspension's firm, but it's got so much more give in it. It's much more pleasurable to drive. It still feels stable, but when you go over a pothole, a little dip in the road, it just cushions it like a normal car. You don't feel like you're in pain for the car, or you broke your back or anything like that. It's so much better. I do think, however, looking at the car, how it sits, with the suspension being new at the front, it does sit a little bit higher at the front than what it does at the back. Maybe at some point I will get new shocks for the rear, just so it levels it up a little bit, but that's not going to be anytime soon unless they start to leak, because it doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, it does feel a lot better. Obviously I'm not throwing it around corners, the car's not made for that, but driving normally, yeah, it's definitely a lot better. You can feel the difference with the suspension. No doubt, I say, if I did do the rear, it would give a whole new experience, all the way around, going around corners, that type of thing, but at the moment you can feel the improvement, so I'm very happy with that. Hopefully you saw the photos that I put in from a little local show that I went to. The car was very dusty. It was a spur of the moment thing to go. I'd not even had a chance to clean it, so that's, if anyone picks up on the photos that it's dirty, that's why. But now it's all taxed, it's all ready to go. Hopefully I can attend a few shows now. So without me waffling now, because obviously it's not related to, well, that's not really related to this video as such, I'm going to leave it there. And if you've got any questions, comments down below, of course leave them, always happy to read them, and I'll see you in the next one.